Yo, what up, friends? 3.22 right around the corner. You're looking for something different, a little off meta, a little bit not what you expect? Are you looking at the video playing right now going, whoa, wait a minute, what the heck? What is he doing? It's kind of cool, right? A little bit different. It's a little bit wild. And I decided for this league, instead of doing my normal toxic rain or lightning arrow, I wanted to try something a little bit different. Now, originally I had leveled toxic rain. I had it all prepped and planned. I was gonna do it. I was excited, and I made a huge, horrible mistake. I logged on Twitch. Can you believe it? Started browsing the directory. What happened? I saw somebody playing an awesome high-end version of Spectral Throw. Now, their information is linked down below. You can go check out their stream and their channel if you want to see a high-end version of it and check their VODs. But I was blown away. I was baffled. And you can see playing before you just kind of what it looks like. Now, when they were playing it, they were farming Uber Cortex. They were blowing everything up. They were taking it to the moon. So I started doing some research, and Spectral Throw really tickled my fancy. So what I did was, instead of leveling Toxic Rain for the 4th time to prep for League Start, I said, you know what? I got 2 weeks, week and a half. Let's try something different. And I turned on Spectral Throw. I made the character. Problem. It was fun. Like, a lot of, like, very, very, very fun. So I played it, and I had a good time. But the problem that I ran into was there was no information on how to level it. There was no information on how to play it. There was no information on how to do anything. The only information that existed was Dex Stacking. While Dex Stacking is good, Dex Stacking is awesome, and I think it's fantastic. How the heck am I supposed to, day one of a league, get synthesized Dex Stacking gear? How am I supposed to get to Cassia? She's waiting for me in maps. Like, I can't turn it on. Now, I know what a lot of you are saying is, well, why don't you just go play something else like Venom Gyre and get the money and get the gear, and then Dex Stack? You see how cool it? Why would I could be doing this? Why would I want to be doing anything else? So I was on a mission. Thanks to you guys and Twitch chat and a handful of people, we managed to figure out a way to play the character, level the character, and find an entire build. So we've made you a guide. We've gone over, and hopefully we didn't leave out a lot of steps. Hopefully we got everything up and running. So I present to you today my League Starter. Now we're going to talk about a couple of things. I'm going to flick over to POB, and I wanted to show you we made and we prepped. Oh, it's too big. You're not gonna be able to see it. Okay, we made a guide that has all the acts, guide that has solo self on day 1, day 2 gear, a bunch of skills and when to put skills. We've done configurations, we've done calculations, and we've done an entire note section that just pretty much covers everything you need to know about this skill. And I'm gonna go over the entire POB with you and try to make sure that I cover all nooks and crannies. Now, we saw the video that was playing earlier. The skill looks really cool in maps. It really does what we want it to do. But I wanted to showcase and prepare, before we go over everything, just really how the skill works. Now, if I take off my MTXs and I throw the skill, it looks... Oh, whoops. It looks like this. It's okay to see. It's whatever. For demonstration purposes, I'm going to put on this red effect. And if you choose to put on a weapon effect, Spectral Throw will change its shape and size depending on the weapon effect. So we're going to use these for right now just to really showcase the skill. Spectral Throw is a unique skill, as when I throw it, blades of my weapon or my weapon is thrown out into the distance. These blades travel across the screen. As they travel across the screen unanimously, if they hit one target, the blades will not shotgun. So if all 5 of these were thrown out and hit June, and I was standing here, all 5 of them would not shotgun June. They count as one hit. Spectral Throw works and does its maximum amount of DPS when you as the player are positioned far enough away from June so that the blades linger on the enemy. So the blade will hit, it will linger and hit, and it will return and hit. So you get 3 hits on one throw. So it goes hit, hit, hit. Spectral Throw hits every 0.3 of a second or so. So the best way to play Spectral Throw is to play it like it was Lightning Arrow or any range skill and not stand on and or near the mob. You can get your damage through the roof by increasing your attack speed and pretty much just throwing a ton of spectral throws. The really cool thing about this skill is on single target DPS, I don't need to worry about having all of my blades hit. I only need one of them to hit. So if I aim off to the side, it still counts as all of them. Same if I do it this way. Spectral throw is a unique skill as though you need to aim it and you need to move and enemies will move. So if enemy moves in and out of your distance, your DPS will fluctuate a little bit. Fluctuate and be a variable. Words are really difficult when trying to film a video. Anyways, something really cool to note. If I keep my mouse out here and I aim out, my blades, as you notice, that was really weird. You see them get stuck? That was super strange. My blades are in a nice tight V formation. If I'm mapping and I need my blades to cover more area, all I need to do is move my mouse closer to my player. So if you want to cover more area, move your mouse close to your player. And if you want to cover less area, move your mouse further away from the player. And you'll notice that this comes in handy depending on the situation. You're trying to clear a legion, there's a ton of mobs, you want to hit the area, and so forth and so on. What's really, really, really cool, at least for me, about Spectral Throw is that it just infinitely pierces. It has built-in Nimbus, and its only downside is it doesn't shotgun. So if I throw this, it's going to pierce through all these mobs and hit everything. And if you hear it and you listen, you can actually hear the hits as they go through. Now, unfortunately, I do a little bit too much damage, and I can't really show you the piercing without just blowing everything up, but it's a really cool, neat build. Now, this character, I started and played in solo self-found. This character has a day on it. I fell in love with it. I played the heck out of it, and I have all of the gear and all of the stuff on this in the POB. Just recently, before recording this over the last couple of days over on my Twitch stream, I, in solo self-found, leveled up a brand new Deadeye on a brand new fresh start. This character has killed both the Searing Exarch and Eater of Worlds. I managed to get 74 completion, 2 Void Stones, and its playtime is about 17 hours. I killed both the Void Stones about the 14-hour marker. It would have been a lot quicker, but I decided I wanted to do some mapping. I wanted to do some blighting. I was looking for Hymn Sorrow. I was experimenting and testing different things, and that's pretty much just kind of like where it is. You can do everything in the game except for Ubers. I do not recommend this character as a bossing character. I highly recommend this character as a mapping character, and I really, really, really advise you to play it as a mapper until you make the jump and get more gear. Once you get it to a spot where it's Dex Stacking and cold stacking and all that fun stuff, then it can pretty much just blow up everything in the game. It does like 200 million DPS. It just kind of zips around like a crackhead on, you know, just ready to go. Now, a couple of other things that are really important with Spectral Throw. The amount of projectile speed that you have will affect it. Yes, the POB on this character is a little weird. I was doing some last minute testing in terms of the POB, but I just wanted to show something really important. The more projectile speed that you have, the further your blades will go. So what that means is if I were to take off less projectile mastery here, these blades go a lot further. If I were to add that mastery and deal more projectile speed, the blades go even further. So you can really control where your blades go. Now, the interesting part about Spectral Throw is the fact that the damage is dealt at the apex of the throw or the highest point of the throw. So if your damage goes off screen and you're trying to kill a single target mob, it becomes a little awkward as you try to do this dance as we hit June from off the screen. So note, when you're looking over the POB and you see interesting changes like less projectile speed, that really answers that why. Now, I had this conversation in another stream the other day, and they were like, man, the projectile speed's all over the place. Ballistic seems really bad. Like, I really want less projectile speed. Playing a Deadeye sucks. It's just projectile speed everywhere. You're right, it does. We've solved that issue. It's in the POB. We figured out a good sweet spot with the DPS and the POB and all that jazz. And we even did things like Divergent Spectral Throw. You do not need Divergent Spectral Throw off the bat. This is a pretty good distance. I was able to do all the content in the game at this distance very comfortably. Now, one thing that I wanted to point out is if you're going to level this character from level 1, one of the best things that you can do is to create a scion right away. Scion starts with Spectral Throw and also has Prismatic Burst, and that's the best way to level the character. We'll grab Prismatic Burst, we'll grab Spectral Throw, we'll put that on our Ranger, and we'll just kind of get rolling. As soon as you hit level 8, you go to town, that whole setup changes, and we go lesser multiple projectiles and added cold. You don't need to do the Prismatic Burst. You can get Chance to Bleed, Chance to Poison. There's all kinds of other options, but that was the best way that I felt to really clear up the first 8 levels. Or you could just say the heck with it, zoom past everything, get to the jail, kill some mobs along the way, and just put it on. But all in all, that's how it works out. Now that we've covered all of that, let's dive into the POB a little bit and kind of talk about what you as the player should expect and how to approach this guide and what to see and what to note so you don't mess things up. When I say mess things up, I mean so that you make sure that you're following it accurately and everything is comfortable and smooth as possible. I've had a couple of friends try out the POB ahead of time before I started working on a Twitch chat. Thank you to you guys who play tested it with the idea and helped me find a lot of the errors and the issues, and we were able to really put together and fix a lot of the problems. Now, if I pull up POB, something very important to note. Before we look at the skills and before we look at the items, we're going to look at the leveling tree. I have made the leveling tree to the exact way that I have leveled it. So Act 1, you start here, you come to Ballistics, you go down to Finesse, and then you're going to work your way up to the Shadow area. If you need to, every single act in this POB is laid out before you. I've tried a bunch of different routes where I've gone up to Trickery first and Assassination up to Claws of the Falcon. And I've tried different routes where I've come down to Precise Techniques. There are a couple unique, fun ways to level this, but this is the way that I found the best. I really like it a lot and I really think it's strong. Now for Act 1, we come down to Finesse for attack speed and accuracy rating. We're going to take Primal Spear in Act 1. Put this back on Act 1. We're going to take Primal Spear in Act 1 because we have mana problems early until we get to Claw nodes. And we want to make sure that we have mana. So every time we press our flask is going to give us mana when we hit the enemies. And you shouldn't really have much problems because you'll press a flask, you'll get a bunch of mana, you'll cast your skill, Primal Spirit will kick in for 10 more seconds. And you'll just kind of like pretty much do what you need to do. Ballistics will give you a little bit of projectile speed, which, as we mentioned, is pretty bad, but this all works itself out later. Now, as we go through Act 1, I leveled with Claws. You do not need to start right away with Claws. You can grab a nice two-hander. You can go through Act 1 with a beautiful two-hander, and you can do pretty much everything you would want to do with a two-hander. I personally stuck with Claws. Claws are a sweet spot for me, and I also like using Whirling Blades in Act 1. Now, you don't need to use Whirling Blades in Act 1. You can grab just anything. Just get the highest DPS weapon that you can do and go to town, whether it be 2 one-handers or a nice two-hander. Going into Act 2, we're going to come up over here and we're going to grab our coordination for attack speed. We want Dex and Int. Dex and Int is very important. Int is going to be a very strong thing that we need a lot of. Same with strength. And we're going to take Blood Siphon for more strength. Now in Act 2, you probably want to start making your way towards the claw nodes and the one-handed nodes. So you really want to pick up a nice claw. In the notes section, I'll add a note on how to make the fizz recipe for weapons, but pretty much you just want to pick up a claw, have the highest DPS you can find, and just put it on and put 2 of them on. Because in Act 2, we're going to get a bunch of fizz damage and a bunch of crit chance, and we're going to get a bunch more damage and speed and one-handed damage here. Now, you'll note that there's crit chance and damage with ailments, and you're going to say, like, what the heck is going on? Why is that? And it'll all make sense shortly. This random node out here is setting us up to go into Act 3, where we're going to grab our Claw Mastery, our Life Raker, our attack speed, and we're just going to set up for attack damage. Now, in Act 2, we're going to be taking the Claw Mastery so that our main hand gives us life per hit and our offhand gives us mana per hit. This makes us very tanky. It might seem strange, but trust me, these nodes become really crazy. So once again, we're going to pick up a weapon, we're going to upgrade it every act or every half act. We're going to pick up weapons off the floor, ideally 2 claws. We're going to slam our essences into them, and we're going to do everything we can to constantly upgrade our weapons throughout the campaign. After we take our Life Breaker, we want to take Forces of Nature and the Elemental Mastery, just so that we can get the damage inverted, as we'll have a bunch of auras at this point. Now, I took Revenge of the Hunted. I've had players play it and tell me they never felt they needed Revenge of the Hunted early, and they just skipped it. If you're playing through the campaign, it's Act 2, Act 3, you feel like you're taking a lot of damage, you would like more health, Revenge of the Hunted is really good. But if you just kind of zoom and go and hit things, as long as you're hitting things, you shouldn't die, and the life and mana from the Claw Mastery should keep you alive. These nodes here, you can choose to take them or choose to take them not, or not to take them and take them later. That's really up to you. If you choose to not take them, just hop on over to step 4 and start following the nodes up. Now, there's a lot of really good crit nodes that we're going to be taking real soon as we get into Act 4, because Act 4 is going to put us into our 4 links where we're going to want to take and have crit nodes. As soon as we get into Act 4, we're going to take another Claw Mastery up here to increase our attack speed. We're using 2 claws. If you don't like the idea of 2 claws, it makes things a little bit awkward with the maintaining of the health and the mana. You can use a shield, you can use a mana pot, you can get rid of this. That is entirely up to you and how you choose to play it. I really like the 2 claws a lot. I know upgrading 2 weapons over the course of the campaign is a little bit of a pain in the butt, but the little quality of life from 2 claws is too damn high to pass up. This entire wheel up here just gives us a bunch of attack speed with claws, a bunch of damage with hits and ailments, and attack speed is king. This node also gives us the power, or the ability to seal Power Frenzy and Endurance charges, so while we're playing through the campaign, we can sometimes have Frenzy charges, Power charges, and Enduring charges. Now, Act 4 will get a little bit of power as we come up to Claws of the Magpie. Going to Act 5, we're going to finish off the Claw Wheel. Now, we've gone through our first 5 acts, so now we're going to move on to Act 6. Act 6, we're going to come up and work our way towards Claws of the Falcon. Now that we have 2 claws, we have a Trinity set up, our skills are working, we want to just make sure that we have Trickery, we have Assassination, we have Cold-Hearted Calculation, Claws of the Falcon. This gives us everything that we need to really start getting our crit working. Moving on to Act 7, we'll take a bunch of accuracy nodes, we will take Nightblade support, and something really important I want to point out, with precision and with accuracy, you need to make sure we are playing a Ranger. We have a ton of decks. We've taken a ton of nodes to compensate for accuracy along the way. But if you notice, it feels like your DPS is dropping a little bit. Double check to make sure your accuracy is good. I didn't really notice a bunch of accuracy issues, but sometimes it is a possibility. After we take our Depth Perception node, we're going to take a Life on Hit and Mana node and a Clever Thief node. Act 8, we're going to take some life with Blood Drinker. We're going to take From the Shadows. And a very big important thing to know with From the Shadows is this gives us attack speed with daggers. Yes, I know, weird, but it gives us elusive effect. Since we're able to track, or since we're able to like turn on elusive at the flick of a button by just attacking, more elusive effect plus more elusive effect is really good. We also get... Wait, that's wrong. There you go. Also get Calling Strike. This is why we double check things. We have to double check things, man. Now we have Calling Strike. I was like, what the heck is that? That's not right. I clicked the wrong thing. Thank God we double checked. Moving on down, we're also going to take Multi-Shot. Multi-Shot's going to give us an extra projectile, which, while the projectiles don't shotgun, having more projectiles and more clear is really good. Act 9's not going to give us a whole lot of power. We'll take a little bit of resistances and life. Act 10, we take some more crit and some more life. And then you just have access to what you need to start maps. Now note there's starting maps pre-cluster. There's level 90 pre-cluster, and you'll notice it changes a little bit because you're setting up for the cluster and more damage, and you're fixing your starting. And then there's level 90 with clusters. Go over these, see what they do, make sure you understand. And the clusters that you're aiming for, ideally, once you hit 85, you should start making your way towards the clusters. We want a pretty standard Feed the Fury, Fuel the Fight, Martial Prowess, as these give us a ton of life and mana leech and damage while leeching and attack speed and accuracy. The medium clusters, we want a nice Basics of Pain, quick getaway for crit strike chance, crit strike damage. And then for the third cluster, we're going to take an Astonishing Affliction and a Storm Rider. Storm Rider, so we get Shield and Shock, and we get just extra power charges when you shock an enemy, a bunch of damage, a bunch of ailment, just very good nodes. As far as going our Deadeye Ascendancy tree, Act 3, we're going to take Tailwind so that we can zoom. You can go Far Shot first if you want for more DPS. Tailwind was great for just speed. Also, like, don't forget more attack speeds, more DPS. I really like Tailwind a lot. Tailwind like really kicks the build into like gear. Going into our second lab, we'll take Far Shot for more damage. Going to our final lab, we'll take Endless Musicians for additional skills. And then going into our Timeless or Eternal lab, we'll take Focal Point for a bunch of damage. Moving into the skills section, you'll notice right away that we have skills set up for the entire axe. Act 1, we're going to take Spectral Throw, Lesser Multiple Projectiles, Added Cold, Sniper's Mark, Ancestral Protector for attack speed, Whirling Blades with Frostblink, and if you really feel like it, you can grab Precision. You really don't need Precision in Act 1, but that's something that you can grab. Going to Act 2, nothing changes. Instead, we're adding on Herald of Ice, and in Act 3, we're adding on Anger. Going to Act 4, we upgrade our skill to a 4-link, so we're gonna get Nightblade. Nightblade's really good, by the way. It's like really good. Like, get Nightblade. We're also gonna get Tornado. Now in Act 6, pretty much you have access to all the skill gems, and you could start making your final assessments if you have sockets and colors. But I really like putting Tornado on Arcanist brands with Power Charge on crit. Since we're always attacking, we're always critting. This will always give us more power charges for more damage while we're going through the rest of the campaign. Early stages of mapping, I uploaded my character from solo self-found so that you could see what kind of gear and what kind of skills. You could see what I had on that character that I showed you earlier and how I cleared the early stages of mapping on a 5-link. I also made you a skill list for when you get your 6th link and how your skills should look and be leveled. Please note when you go over this section, note some gems do not have quality. This is on purpose, and some gems are under leveled. This is on purpose as well, such as your Immortal Call, Lightning Golem, cast when damage taken setup. Your Ancestral Protector will level later as we get more strength, and pretty much it's just something to keep in mind. Now, when you get level 90 with clusters, it's the same skills. We just level the rest of our skills up more, so we want to make sure that Ancestral Protector, where the heck is it, is level 20. We want to kick up our precision if we have enough mana, depending on the gear that we get, and we go from there. In the items section of our POB, in the axe, just cap your resistances. It's really easy and really simple. So I didn't really do a lot of act gear. As far as the day 1, day 2, I uploaded my character from solo self-found, and I wanted to make a note about it. This is the gear that I literally killed Eater and Exarchwick in about 13 hours. I know it's not as fast as racers, pre-clusters. I know it's not as fast as racers, but that's just how I did it. Now, something important to know when you're going through this POB and you choose the leveling tree that you're on, make sure that the skill section also matches where you're at. So if you're on Act 3 and you go to skills and you're on Act 1, you're going to be in a bad place. So just make sure everything matches up. Same thing goes with the items. When you're looking at the day 1, day 2 items with no clusters, make sure that you have this set to pre-clusters, as you can really see where things kick off. And you'll notice right away, oh no, there's this weird strength requirement. Why is there this weird strength requirement? Oh yeah, because I'm set on the cluster setup. Small things that add up that make you look at the POB and you're like, what WTF, mate? What the heck? Now, I put a week 1 gear setup with clusters. This is the kind of ideal gear that you want to get to go through week 1 of a league start. This is not your be-all, end-all gear. This is not your min-max endgame gear. This is your pretty much your gear that you're going to just go through the campaign or go through the Atlas with, get to tier 16 red maps, and start your farming. This gear will change once you get currency and you make the decision of if you want to pursue this past being a league starter or if you want to pursue this into something else. Now, if you want to pursue this past being a league starter and there's a lot of hype around it, leave a comment down below. Let me know. This way I know that you guys want me to also go past a league starter with it. And we can like get it to like high tier, high end, put a mage blood on it, a headhunter, get some synth gear, and kind of go from there. Now, looking at the gear, it's very basic. You just need a claw with some fizz damage, attack speed, and crit. You're going to take Leper Arm for the shield so that you can reflect ailments back. Since we shock and chill, we reflect shock and chill to the enemy, and it takes it off of us. Heat Shiver, because Heat Shiver is insane. Heat Shiver gives us just extra damage. Since we freeze and chill everything, we just get a bajillion amount of extra damage. Now, note with this build, you might not freeze bosses, so Heat Shiver won't be a bajillion extra damage on bosses, but you'll get extra cold damage per chill on bosses, but regular mapping mobs will literally just blow up. We're going to take Hymn Sorrow because we're going to eventually convert to a fizz to cold setup. So ideally what happens is once we start going through the campaign and we start getting into maps, eventually we're going to get Hymn Sorrow, and we want a nice Fizz Claw. When we get a Fizz Claw, we convert from what we're doing to just pure damage. Kind of like the same thing the Tornado Shot guys do, where they convert all of their physical damage to cold. We're going to be doing the same thing, but with Spectral Throw. Now, the armor and the chest plate's a little weird. We chose this armor. This was a suggestion from my buddy Turtle. It was really good. It actually kind of like fills every gap that we were missing on the build in the early stages of playing it. It gives us a little summon Roa dude who gives us the Intimidate aura, so we can just intimidate all the enemies. It gives us a ton of flat accuracy, a metric ton of evasion, really good life, and crit chance. Now, the one that I have is pretty poorly rolled. If you get a better rolled crit chance one, you'll get a better amount of crit to get you closer to that 100% crit cap. You'll note, too, that I have a Bestial Roa skill. There are 3 variants to this armor. You really want the Roa one, as it gives the Intimidate is the best one. Our boots are pretty simple. They are just essence-crafted strength boots with some life and resistances, whatever resistance you need, and we craft it on movement speed. We do a Yoke of Suffering so that all of our elemental damage can shock. We want shock. Shock is important. Shock is really good. It ties in with the clusters. It gives us extra damage. Our ring's pretty simple. We just want a statted ring with like intelligence, which is really important, and resistances, and an open prefix for minus mana cost. Our second ring, once again, just resistances, minus mana cost. You can get nicer, better rings than I put into this. I put in the bare minimum to cap resistances. It'll be really easy to scout around for better rings. Our belt, I uploaded the belt for my solo self-found character. It has a metric ton of strength, some resistances, and a whole lot of life. Stygian Vices at the end of the day will be a lot better. But since I was in SSF and I didn't have one and it was a 13-hour run, I just uploaded the belt that I had and just kind of rolled with it. The clusters I went over with you. And just Flask, we have a life flask for Corrupted Blood. I managed to kill Adzeria at like level 75. She dropped the Adzeria Flask. The Adzeria Flask was really good and kicked up our damage. The Jade Flask, we have a Jade Flask with gain charges when we crit and attack speed. We have a Silver Flask for flash charges and evasion rating. And we have a Taste of Hate. Taste of Hate gives us a ton of extra damage and survivability. Now note, you'll see the full DPS down here. It says 3x Spectral Throws. And that is because we set our Spectral Throw to include full DPS with 3 throws. This is because I explained earlier in the video, when we throw and we cast and we attack with Spectral Throw, the blade goes out, it hits again, and it hits on its way back, so we count the DPS as 3. The configurations, we took Soul of the Brine King for stun immunity, freeze immunity, reduced effective chill. We take Aberrath, or this one can be changed just to dodge Burning Ground. You can really change the Minor God to whatever content you're doing. During the campaign, it's probably better to take the Corrupted Blood one, but pretty much you can do whatever you want. Now, I had mentioned that this is a mapping build and not a bossing build, though, so people don't get confused. I have not checked all the configurations because I don't want people to assume the damage is higher than what it is and they get to a boss and it feels kind of medium. So the damage that you're seeing is the DPS for bossing. We always have power charges. Now, we always have frenzy charges because on our tree, we have the Mark of Prey, which gives us 10% frenzy charge to hit an enemy. So we'll always have frenzy charges. We'll also have Blood Rage 2, which will give us frenzy charges, but pretty much we want to make sure that we have frenzy charges on rare mobs and bosses all the time. We have power charges from Tornado. We also have power charges from Storm Rider. We also shock because of the Yoke of Suffering. We have life tap on our whirling blades. We have life tap on our mark. We have tailwind all the time because we are a Deadeye. We have elusive all the time because of Nightblade support. We're always leeching because we're always leeching and we're always attacking, and we have the clusters for leech damage. We're always critting because we're 100% crit chance. The enemy is always branded as a boss because we're always going to be casting our brand. The enemy is always going to be chilled. The enemy is always going to be shocked. And the enemy is always going to be exposed to cold. Now, if you were to go into a mapping setting and you were to really kick this up and you wanted to see what the DPS looked like in a map, the first box that we're going to check is the enemy is frozen. And that essentially, if you look, is just going to double our damage. Because now we freeze everything because we're in a map. We're also going to have Intimidation Aura because we're going to have the Roa. I didn't have Intimidation checked originally because I didn't know if you have the armor at this point in watching the video or not. We're always going to have Killed recently, so our damage is going to go down from our boot enchant. And because we're mapping, our Flask are pretty much going to be up 24/7. So you can see right away, our damage just kind of triples just because we're mapping and we're not bossing. So I really recommend that you map and not boss. The last thing that I want to point out with this guide, the pretty important thing, is the note section. There's a lot of notes. The beginning of the build really just says thank you and kind of points out the appreciation to you guys. And then there is an entire notes for the configuration section. There's how to craft the end game claw for pre-Dex stacking. There's 2 really cool options. And there's an entire Q&A section from while I was streaming of questions that people asked. So if you have questions, it might be already in here. If not, leave a comment down below. I will be 100% going over the YouTube and keeping an eye on things and making sure I get everything out to you guys. That's it. Let me know what you think. I hope you guys like this. I hope this really helped. And yeah, man, let me know if you try it and you like it. Hell yeah, dude. Let's go. I'll be doing it with you. You can keep an eye on the Twitch stream. You can keep an eye on the YouTube. I'll be posting updates for League Start periodically. But for now, friends, I hope you kick some ass. So long for all of you, Deadeye.